Hi and welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to learn about namespacing, what, why, and how. Just a quick recap. What we did yesterday was quite a lot. We extracted everything into their own folders. So there was a notes folder and then there was an index folder. In fact, way more than that. I don't even know where to begin. Essentially, the biggest change was moving the index folder into the entry point index folder into public over here, public.index, and then from here creating two folders in functions.php. So essentially here functions.php has two folders which return the base path and the view, and base path is used anytime we want to reference a file inside our project, which is a lot of times. So we updated pretty much every file in our project with that. So I'll give you an example. If we look at let's say the router, it has the view, but I want to give you an example of base path. Yeah, see this. So in the index.view.php, we required the base path /views/partials.z. This was very confusing because initially I gave it the function view over here and it stopped working, which should not have stopped working, but somehow it did. I don't know. But that's what programming is. Sometimes you just don't know what works or why it does, and sometimes it works but you don't know why. Either ways, the big changes are we moved our classes to core folder, we moved the entry point to public index, we moved a lot of the hard-coded paths to base path and view, these two functions. And lastly, we've also created a special auto load register which automatically loads anytime a class is called. So anytime I reference a class, I no longer have to import it. So for example, this here database is referenced in the notes create. See, I haven't required the database config here. Same with here. Instead, I just say new database, and this is invoked anytime. The special autoloader is invoked anytime something like this happens. The same will happen for response and validator as well. So I'll give you an example. I think in the create node controller, I'm using validator as well. Validator anyway was this, but you remember it was requiring that I use a import statement. Now it's not, and I don't really remember where I'm using the response class. I guess I would be using it in show, but regardless, that's not the point right now. The point really is we changed a lot of things. Another thing I did behind the scenes was I committed to a private Git repository. What that just means is all of these files are tracked now. In the last episode, I was kind of scared of breaking things, and to make sure that there's always an undo option, I created a Git repository, which is essentially version control, so I can roll back any changes that I make if I decide that this thing isn't working. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's start with namespacing: what, why, and how.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We can finally dig into namespacing in this video. And don't worry, I'm going to make it super easy to understand. All right, so I want you to think back to the days before music streaming. So before Spotify or before YouTube or YouTube Music. Way back to when all of your music, your full collection, was stored locally as MP3s somewhere on your desktop.
I got all of them from the high seas, from some very, let's just say, shady websites, and And LimeWire, I remember. LimeWire I used to... Was it LimeWire or Livewire? Yeah, it was LimeWire. Livewire is the Laravel framework. LimeWire is where I used to download MP3s from.
Right? You have some folder called music, you click on it, and again, there's your full collection of music. Okay, so I want you to see that in your head, and then I want you to tell me this, answer this question. Did you store every single music track within that top level directory? And of course, the answer is no. You categorized it, right? Maybe according to style. Maybe you have a rock folder, a pop folder, or a classical folder. Or maybe you categorized it according to the band or the artist name, right? So now I want you to think, well, why
So my thing was genre, artist name, and then album.
did we do that? And the answer is, well, for a few reasons. One, it is nice to group related songs. So if you like, ZZ Top or something like that, then you would have all songs written by them in the same folder.
Boss, slight tangent, I know. I like Tool and I like Mute Math. These two were my favorite bands. Even to this day, I really, really like them. But back then in college, I used to really love Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and a lot of this heavy metal stuff. But mostly these two bands. Pink Floyd as well, of course. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC a little bit, yeah.
That is useful. But another reason you did it is to avoid the collision of song titles, right? And multiple songs could have the exact same title. And if you stored them all within the same directory, well, of course, there's going to be a collision. And you don't want a song like I Miss You, and then another track that says I Miss You -2, right?
So Tool has this song called No Quarter. Led Zeppelin also has a song called No Quarter. Tool essentially covered that song, did their own version of that song.
You don't want to do that. So again, if you store them or if you categorize them according to the name of the band or the artist, well, that solves that problem. And the exact same thing, as it turns out, is true for namespacing. Okay, so let's have a look. But first, real quick, I noticed at the end of the last video, when I moved a bunch of files to the core directory, these two were excluded. So let's do that right now. I will grab those and move them over. Okay, next I'll need to update my paths. Our functions file is now stored within the core directory, and the same is true for the router. Next though, I think...
Okay, yeah, remember I had this doubt last time. I'm going to do that too. Man, the last episode was quite a doozy. 1 hour, almost 1 hour, 20 minutes long. He did it for functions and the router. Okay, and update the index. See, this green thing happens whenever I've made a change to a file. So the green indicates that I've changed. You'll see the same in his as well. See these green things. He's using Git as well. I'm using Git as well. So I'm in functions. So this is core. Okay. Give it a refresh. Why does it not work? core/router .php core/functions .php. Okay, include path. Router.php, route to controller. Requires on line 8. Okay, requires routes. So this will be the routes would be actually this should still work. Let's see what he does.
Things will still break. So if I come back and give this a refresh, yeah, now because the router is within a different directory, it can no longer track down the routes file. So let's fix that very quickly. We'll go in here, and yeah, right down here where we...
Did I not do base path? I think I did routes base path. Yeah.
We require the routes. Let's swap that out with require base path routes.php. Okay.
That was the first thing I checked. require base path routes.php.
Okay, come back, give it a refresh, and now we just have one more fix to make. So once again, within the router file, it can no longer properly locate our controllers. So if we come back, right here is where we require the controller. But once again, let's start at the base path. So I will do it here, and then also when we load a view.
Oh. You get it? You get it? You get it? Okay, this is why the previous one wasn't working. Okay, this is so relieving. Require base path. And this makes total sense now. Okay, this will work. Now the 404 won't work. Yeah, it does. The 404 won't work for the same reasons. Now the 404 will work. Instead of view, I need base path. Do I need base path errors? No, I need base path view errors. See, his thing was base path views code. He could have easily just done views, which is what I did. But here, VVWS views errors. See this. I have a 404.php. Base path views errors. Require base path views errors code PHP in the abort function. Okay, let's see.
Okay, let's come back, give that a shot, and hopefully that solves the problem. And yeah, it sure looks like it does. All right, now we can get started.
But it doesn't solve the problem of 404 not found. See this. Yeah, yellow means made changes to the file, I think so. Yeah, I did make changes, so I added core here. Green means also means to make changes to the file, I guess. Yellow means I made changes. Green means I added lines, I think. Yeah. Untracked, modified. Yeah, this is modified and this is untracked. Hang on a second. In functions PHP, I need to view is fine, authorizer. Okay, cool. This is fine. Router. Require base path and then die. Is that what we're doing? Yeah, we are requiring base path views errors views errors 404.php 403.php. Let me you know what, let me just dd the response code. Okay, give me int 404. That's what I want. So why can't you 404.php? Let me dd instead of dding, before that I want to echo this whole thing. Okay, yeah, views errors 404 PHP. This is views errors 404 PHP. Then why not require base path? You know what, let me just not even do base path. Let me just comment this out, uncomment this. Let me just require this. Okay. Let's see what happens. Inspect. The whole thing is empty. Yeah. Let's spend 1 minute, one more minute on this. I need to require the base path for this. Let me not die then. What's it saying? Thrown in. Okay, uncaught failed loading partials etched head.php. Oh god, did I forget to update this? Base path partials, base path views, partials, views, partials, and views, partials. Let's go. Who fixed it? Who fixed it? Who fixed it? We did. Same with this base path, views, view. So that's the importance of being able to read this. What I did was I just read all of this and looked at the last line, 404 on line 1. What's on 404 line 1? 404 line 1 is this. So this is what was wrong. Partials, views. Okay, cool. I'm so glad it works now. Let's check the 403 as well. Yeah, cool. Okay, now let me clean up the functions. No, not the function, the router. I don't need this. And let's call die. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's continue.
Code of view. Okay, let's come back, give that a shot, and hopefully that solves the problem. And yeah, it's...
You know what? I want to show you something. So I made a few changes to this, right? And it's currently working. What I like to do is whenever it's at a working stage after making a few changes, I like to git commit. So I can commit this and say fixed 404 and 403 error pages and refactored functions and router PHP functions.php. So ideally you should just update one change to it. So ideally I shouldn't do this, I should do this or that, but since we have two changes, I'm gonna commit it and I can even push it. So I synchronize changes to GitHub. Now even if like my laptop catches fire, I'm sorry, I hope that doesn't happen, touch wood, but if that does happen, all of my changes are synced to GitHub. I can just log into my GitHub account and download it and continue working as if nothing at all happened. Waiting for it to finish synchronize changes. It usually takes less than a minute. Close everything. Yeah, that's done. I'll close all, go back to a file explorer, and we're back.
Sure, it looks like it does. All right, now we can get started. So yeah, in the last episode, we already got started with this idea of creating directories to group related behavior, just like with your music collection. And in this case, we're sort of grouping our core infrastructure code, or really this is sort of like our miniature framework code. And yeah, we called it core. So now I want to create namespaces for each of these classes that lines up with that directory tree. So if I open up, for example, database, right here at the top, I will give it a namespace of core. And immediately you'll notice when I do that, I get all of these squigglies here next to other classes. And further, if I come back to Firefox and give it a refresh, everything's going to break. Because now, well, it doesn't really make sense, right? We're trying to load a class called database, but we moved it. Now database is within an entirely different namespace, so of course it can't find it. Okay, so let's have a look at the error here. Class database not found in notes/index. So let's go into our controller, notes/index. And yeah, once again, we are trying to instantiate our database class, but again, it's no longer located there. We moved it into a different namespace. Okay, so we can fix this by using the full namespaced path. And in this case, it would be core. And notice rather than a / for the divider, we actually use a \, as you see there. And now the squiggly goes away. Okay, so this would be one way to do it. Another option is to add the use keyword at the top of your file. So I could say use core/database, and now within the rest of the file, I can just reference it like I did before. So yeah, in a way, this is sort of like an alias. This is the full namespaced path that I want to use within this file.
Laravel has something called Illuminate. I guess that's what it is. It's a namespace.
And then after that, anywhere else I reference it can simply use the class name alone. That's the way that works. Okay, so if I come back and I give this a refresh, yeah, we've solved that particular error, but now we've moved on to another one. So you'll see right here, well, we're trying to auto-load the database path, but remember in the last episode where I said, well, we're gonna have to rewrite this in the next video, this right here. And yeah, we're now to that point. Now that we're using a namespaced class, well, the logic is going to be entirely different. So let's have a look here. Let's die.
Thank you, because I wasn't a fan of this.
And dump the class. And if I come back and give it a refresh, yeah, and as you can see, we're now dealing with something entirely different. Okay, so let's do this. For our reference, I will comment and paste what class is equal to right now. And let's figure out how we can translate this namespaced path into a require statement. Okay, well, if you think about it, I don't want to use this \. It needs to be a / usually, or whatever the directory separator is for your OS. So what if we did something like this? PHP has a function called string replace. And you can see here, we search for some kind of sequence of characters, and then we specify what we want to replace those characters with, and then we provide the thing that we are looking at.
Are we going to replace the / with the /?
So in this case, the subject, the thing we are looking at, is class. We are going to look for a \, but in this case, we actually have to escape the \ to make it crystal clear that I literally mean a \ character rather than something that I'm escaping, in this case, a quote. Okay, so look for a \ and replace it with, well, on my machine, it would be a /. But again, why don't we make it dynamic by using directory separator so that we use whatever is appropriate.
I love this. So for those who don't know, on Mac and Linux, it's /. On Windows, it's \.
For your OS. Okay, so let's have results and take a look at that in the browser. And if I come back and I give it a refresh, yeah, we just swapped out that \ with a /. Okay, that helps. So now when I make my require right down here, require base path core, well, I no longer have to hardcode that. That gives us this. We could swap out result, or I don't see any reason to create a new variable. So let's just overwrite class at that point, and I can substitute it here. Okay, let's come back, give it a refresh. And yeah, it may not look like it here, but I think.
So in programming, whenever you get a new error instead of the old error, that probably means you're doing something right. You're on the right path.
I think we actually solved the problem. So notice how the warning has changed. Oh, and by the way, seeing warning and error pages is just part of the job, so get used to it. But yeah, in this case, it looks like within our database file, it's trying to load the PDO class, but notice it's trying to find that PHP class within the core directory, and of course, well, that's not right. That class does not have a namespace of core. Okay, so if I come back, let's see what we're dealing with.
That's happening because the autoload register is trying to load it, not anything else. It's just the autoload.
With here. And yeah, right down here, you can see we're trying to use this PDO class, but it's set to undefined.
Let's, on top of the database PHP, use whatever the namespace is.
And it's set to undefined specifically because we applied a namespace at the top of the file.
It's also core. I just read the documentation when he hovered over there in the pop-up. So that namespace is also called core. Interesting.
And the way it works is, unless you specify otherwise, every single class referenced within this file will assume the namespace at the top. So yeah, in this case, PDO, well, it's basically assuming core/PDO, and that does not exist. This is a class that is provided by PHP. It doesn't have any nested namespacing.
Understood.
Okay, so we solved that in one of two ways. If we ever want to reference something from the global root, that's how I think of it, you begin it with a backslash. So the difference between this and this is significant. This says start at the root and look for a PDO class. This says start within whatever namespace you're currently in and then look for a PDO class. So yeah, we could update all of these, but yeah, what you'll start to find is it gets kind of annoying and it's easy to forget. So instead, why don't we just use the PDO class at the top of the file, like so. Come at the top, and I will say I want to use PDO. And you'll see when you define these use statements at the top of the file, it's almost like a little bit of documentation. It's a little heads up of, okay, here's all of the stuff that this file needs access to. So it can be really helpful from that perspective. Okay, so
Pause. Let's follow along. We forgot to follow. I forgot to follow.
note/index. And yeah, once again, we are trying to instantiate our database. Do that. I get all of these squid.
So I did was, first thing he did was namespace core. Let's do that for the database. And here, you notice this? 30 minutes ago, I made a change on this, which is essentially initialize it. That is coming from a extension I have in VS Code called GitLens. GitLens is doing that. Okay, now I'm here. I'll say namespace is core. Okay. Now that I've done that, there's also another one called use PDO, because that is different. PDO is different. So 1, 2, 3. And there's also response for some reason. Response comes from core/response. Yes, but that is a function of, I believe it was in the index. Yeah, the special autoloader. Yeah, this is what is not working. So to fix this, str replace string replace search replace. No, this wasn't the function. What was it? String replace. Yeah, it was str replace. Okay. Search replace and subject. Search for backslash. Don't escape it, but yeah, and then replace it with a directory separator. This is so useful, the directory separator, because it's OS agnostic, and do that for the class. Okay, and let's just say class equals this. Not a fan of the variable class, the variable name class here. But why are you yelling at me? String replace this in class. Syntax unexpected require. Why?
The subject, the thing we are looking at, is class. But again, why don't we make it dynamic by using directory separator, so that we use whatever is appropriate for your OS, Okay, so let's have results and take a look at that in the browser. And if I come back and I give it a refresh, yeah, we just swapped out that backslash with a forward slash. Okay.
Yeah, it worked. But now I have a different error here. Why am I... There's nothing in core response. But I'm asking you to look for core / response. Can I... see over here I'm asking you to auto load core / response. Let's see.
That helps. So now when I make my require right down here, require base path core, well, I no longer have to hard code that. That gives us this. We could swap out result, or I don't see any reason to create a new variable. So let's just overwrite class at that point, and I can substitute it here. Okay, let's come back, give it a refresh. And yeah, it may not look like it here, but I think we actually that is PDO class, but it's set to undefined base at the name core / PDO.
Yeah, we fixed that over by calling by saying use PDO.
And that does not exist. This is a class that is provided by PHP. It doesn't have any nested namespacing. Okay, so we solved that in one of two ways. If we ever want to reference something from the global root, that's how I think of it, you begin it with a backslash. So the difference between
that's fine.
Use PDO. And you'll see when you define these use statements at the top of the file, it's almost like a little bit of documentation. It's a little heads up of, okay, here's all of the stuff that this file needs access to. So it can be really helpful from that perspective. Okay, so now if I come back to Firefox, I think we will solve that.
The reason it's not working for us is because response is not namespaced as core. So let's do that. Okay. Namespace core. Okay, now it'll work. I spoke too soon. At least it got away with the error. Okay, what's the thing here? Database controller require controller main in index.php line 6. Which one? Nodes controller, right? Index.php line 6. Yeah, over here it is loading database. Yeah, I forgot to change this. So I'm gonna say, was it use or was it what was it? Namespace core is fine, and in index I think it's use core / database. Yes. Yeah. Okay, what's the error now? I think same with this. When I'm creating something, then when I'm showing it as well. Okay, what's the error here? Index.php in line where public index.php, the root in line 9. Line 9 requires base path controller class. No, I think it should fix. Home works, or about works, contact works, but notes doesn't. Okay. He added use, right? Yeah, he did add use. Remember the thing I gave you, the what's it called? Is it apostrophed? Is it in quotes? No, it's not. Database. index.php line 9. Same thing. The require core path. I think it's not this, and it's just let's try that, right? Because it makes no sense to use this. God, why? Okay, I understood. Yeah. Create node, the validation still works. No, the validation doesn't. Huh. Let's see the create PHP. It requires special characters. Error. View node create header. Okay, validator. Yeah, it's this. The validator ain't loading. Use core database. Use core validator as well. Yeah. Let's go. Why? Why are you? Undefined type core validator. It's right here. It's literally right there. Line 13 and create. Line 13 is here. Then what's the problem? Line 9 in index. Line 9 in index. Require base path, then core dash class dot php. Core / validator dot php. Okay, let's ignore that for now.
That issue, and we do. Okay, so now if I come back to a PHP Storm, let's just update some of these classes. Namespace core.
Oh god, did I forget to add the namespace core to validator? See, I did. That's why. I'm so sorry. Yeah, now it'll work. Yes. What did I do in create? Oh yeah, use this. What happened? Index line 9. It was working just 3 minutes ago. See, it's working again. Yeah. Save. Sometimes you just need to like go to a different page and change things from there.
Right down here to our validator, same thing, namespace core. And yeah, you would do this for all of your files, specifically all of your classes from this point on. Okay, and then at this
So I don't need to do it in functions and routers because those aren't classes.
point, we would just do a quick sweep through all of our files where we are still referencing these classes in their former locations.
Which is what I did, thanks.
So in this case, I can see database and validator. Of course, I can do use core database, and that'll solve it. But don't forget, if you're working along in PHP Storm, let the editor do the work for you. So for example, for validator, I can press option return, import class, and again, it does it for me. Okay, so I just go through all of these files and make sure there's no squigglies. That's basically all I'm doing here. About, contact, yeah, these are all static. I think we're good to go here. Okay, so hopefully that all made good sense to you.
Yeah.
You've now learned what namespaces are. You've learned why you might create them. You learned how to use them or import them if that fits your head. You're going to reference these all the time, especially once you upgrade to a dedicated framework. So make sure you understand everything you see here, and we'll keep going in the next lesson.
Thank you. Wait, there's more? There is just empty blank space. Is this like a Marvel post-credit scene where there's ooh, nice, thank you. Some Easter egg. Amazing. Pause this. Let me check if there's homework. Okay, no homework. Shush. Okay, pause. Cool, let me give you a recap of what we did today, quite a bit. So what we did was essentially go to every single class here and added a namespace of core, and namespace of core. Sorry, I forgot to do that earlier, but now that I did, it works. Now in these classes we've referenced namespace, right? So in the special autoloader, we can just take the class and replace the backslash with whatever the directory separator is for our operating system. I'm on Windows, so it's /. If you're on Mac or Linux, it'll be backslash. So still it's a good idea to do this so that it's interoperable with any system that uses your code. Then after string replacing it with the directory separator, I'm just using class. Then I'm basically just using class as a base path and then PHP, because I no longer need to like do this. Like earlier it was core /, which I don't really need to do because we're using the namespace of core over here. Okay, now that we've done that, every time we use any of these classes, we can just go to use database, use validator. I think in one of these I also used use response or something like that. Which one was it? Create this errors. Yeah, it was this one only, I think, validator. But there was a third one, right? Which one was the third one? Response. Where did I use response? Did I use it in show? Sorry, I forgot where I used it. I'm sorry. Let me check. Find course / response. I used it in show. No, I haven't. Let's see. I should ideally use it on a 404 page, so it should be in show. If it doesn't exist, find or fail. Anyway, it should be here, but I can't find it. Config find or fail. Okay, db query find or fail. Where is it? Yeah, here it is, response. Because I used it in find or fail. Yeah, so using namespace of core in the database function, use PDO, and I didn't really need to use response because I'm using the namespace of core here itself within the database class. So that's a nice little gotcha. If you're referencing multiple files within the same namespace, so for example, database and response, both of these are in the core namespace. See this? So I did not really need to namespace core and then use core again, like I did over here. See, use core database. So I didn't really need to go here and say use core response. Although I'm curious to see what will happen if I do. Create node. This is invoked anytime I get a 403. See, I don't need to do this. But this is a different error, I guess. Index line 9. I'm gonna ignore it right now. I am. What's happening is if I go to show use core database, find or fail. If I let me just use core. Oh, but here it should be core slash database. Backslash database. No. I'm gonna undo all of this. Core backslash database. Go back to notes. Refresh. Create a note. Yeah, now it works. Notes. The error was in 403, I think. No, it was in viewing an individual note. Okay. Any note, not even a 404 or 403. So it's in the show note ID where I'm getting the ID from this current user is authorized. Database is config database. Database is I'm okay with this right now, honestly. Let's just call it a day for now. Commit it and see if we can fix the error later. I'll just say use namespace. I forgot to add a commit message, sorry. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Commit, synchronize changes. Let's ignore this error just for now. We'll get back to fixing it maybe later. Thank you for watching another episode of Learning PHP with me. And the entire series is available for free on laracast.com and on YouTube. So do check it out. Both of these links are in the description of this video.